Hey, lovely ones, and welcome back to the Wellness Business Show. I hope you are good and doing well. So, today I want to talk to you about exactly what I'd be doing right now in November 2025 to make next year, 2026, my best year yet. And here is why this is a very hot topic. So you may feel that this time of year is a bit of a weird one. It's pre-Christmas. We've still got like a good, I'd say at least 4 or 5 weeks before we really hit that kind of Christmas slump where everyone's prepping for the big day. Kids are starting to come off school, Christmas present mayhem, all the like social stuff kicks off. Anyway, it's a vibrant, busy time. Across my memberships, programs, with my one-to-one clients, I've been having a lot of these questions around, I've had this idea, I've got this product or service that I want to launch. I feel like, there is still a bit of potential left in this year. Should I be launching now? Should I be holding off till next year? Like, what do I do in this little slump? And someone told me recently that what you do in November shapes your next year. And this really got me thinking, because I get it. A lot of you will be thinking it feels like the wrong time to start something fresh. And as I said, that could be like launching a brand new program. It could be like starting a new habit. This doesn't even need to be business related. Maybe there's a new sport you want to try out, a new gym you want to join, I don't know, a new membership you want to get involved in, and everything, or even some mentorship. Maybe you're thinking about like leveling up in your business and you've been thinking about getting some support, but there's just this big narrative that keeps popping up of like, shall I just leave it till next year? I'll just leave it till next year. And one of the greatest challenges with this idea that January is the month where we get our shit together, we hit the ground running, we get all our goals set. Like, January is the month of productivity, of getting shit done, shaping the future year. The issue with that is that for so many of us, we think back to last January, January before that, the January before that, it's far from the truth, right? That doesn't often happen. How many of us can genuinely say, come January 1st, we hit the ground running? The reality is you're kind of wading through the Christmas hangover. You've got like no routine. Routine just fallen apart. We don't know what day of the week it is. We are kind of trying to restart things, think about going back to school, think about getting things back in order. The social arrangements start to settle, the kids' routines start to resume, clubs start to start again, all of that kind of stuff. And actually, and certainly for me, like I have 3 children in 3 different schools. So all of their kind of holiday times look different, what they're doing, where they're going, what they're doing through the festive period. And so by the time everybody gets back to school and some sort of normality resumes, we can feel so far from the hope that we had, right? And also, so often we put a lot of pressure on that downtime, quote unquote downtime, over the Christmas period, or when we feel business is quieter, and think that that's going to be the time that we cast our future vision. We get clear on our goals. We set our goals. We strategize. We make a plan for the year ahead. But again, we find ourselves at the beginning of January just in a whirlwind and looking forward to normality resuming. And when normality resumes, then we start to try and get some of these things going, some of these balls in motion, start to try and lay out, get the wall planners out, we get our goals, we do our kind of future visions. A lot of the goal setting programs and offerings and workshops I've run have been in January. So truly, we actually start to get momentum going maybe back end of January, beginning of February. So it makes sense, this idea that it's actually not what we do in January that sets us up for an epic year. It's actually what we do in November. November presents this kind of window of opportunity just before the Christmas chaos descends, where maybe things are feeling a bit more transient. Maybe you're not going to go full throttle into certain things because there is going to be a bit of change during December. So maybe this opens up a window of opportunity to lay some of those foundations, to get some of the momentum rolling now for next year, so that 2026 you, in January, once the dust has settled and you are able, you have the capacity to commit and connect back with your vision and your goals, the reins are ready to be held. You're not grappling around trying to find those reins in the first place. It kind of makes me feel like the vision that I get for this is like, imagine the cupboard under your stairs. And it feels like from about now through to the rest of the year, every single time you say to yourself or to someone else, I think I'll start that next year. I'll do that in January next year. I'll start investing in that thing next year. I'm going to stop doing that thing next year. I'm going to start this better routine next year. You imagine every single time you say that over the next month and a half, that you're putting more and more and more and more stuff in that understairs cupboard for 2026 you. And 2026 you rocks up, is like, right, we're good to go. It's second week of January. Normality's starting to resume. This is my moment to take my business to next new heights. Let's open that cupboard. Let's see what we've got. And it all just cascades out and cue massive overwhelm. And that's exactly what we have probably been trying to combat this whole rest of the year, like this year, right? Maybe that's one of the greatest reasons why you don't feel you've got where you wanted to get to this year, is because of the amount of overwhelm. So let's not set ourselves up with that at the beginning of the year. You and I both know what it feels like when future us has our back. And I can give you a really simple example. Like perhaps you have marked out in your diary in a couple of weeks' time, you've given yourself a Friday off because the week's felt particularly busy with clients, because you've had a big launch, there's been something going on. And then future you that opens that calendar on that Friday and sees that, remembers that you marked it off. You were like, this is just going to be a down day. How grateful is future you to pass you for that moment? So let's move into a new year, in our case 2026, feeling that way. That the future you, the 2026 January version of you, is high-fiving the you now because it sees the moment that it was in November to lay some pretty epic foundations, so that the chaos and the kind of Christmas hangover and the kind of emergence from all the chaos that Christmas brings allows that version of you to still have the desire, to still have the want. Because I know, and I know a lot of you in my audience are similar to me, that we love our kids, right? We love doing the Christmas thing. We love it. We love it when they're off. We love doing all the, festivities. We love spending time. But when you run your own business, one of your highest values will be freedom. And that, my lovely, you and I are not experiencing during that time of the year. Quite the opposite. There is so much to do, so many people's agendas. The thing that we love, our business, is often the thing that we can't tend to the most. And so when we get to January, we may lack some kind of time and clarity, but what we don't lack is the desire to get going. So if you imagine that you've laid some foundations now, that January you can simply take the reins of, perfect. You're away and fully setting yourself up for a powerful 2026. And that, my lovely, is what I'm going to walk you through right now. I'm going to walk you through the exact steps I'm taking right now in this month to ensure I have the best 2026. And may I remind you that if you are, or all of you will be service-based business owners, the chances are that January may actually be quite a busy time for you. So I used to find when I ran my day spa that whilst January was not a great cash flow month, it was a very busy time. We sold lots of presents, lots of gift vouchers, all that kind of jazz in December. And January was the time where, you're thinking about your New Year's resolutions, so are your clients. And, your clients' wellness will be a top priority in January because they'll be thinking the same, hitting the ground running, wanting to implement some of the stuff they've been deferring to January 2026. So you want to make sure that you're not expecting yourself to map out your whole year in a time where you could actually be super busy. So I'm going to walk you through now the 5 things that I'm doing right now to make sure my 2026 is going to be rocking and rolling. And I would really encourage you to do the same. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is your future vision. So intention is everything. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And yes, that is like a universal law. So if your attention is going on things you don't want, or you're spending your energy on arms of your business that don't bring you joy, aren't bringing you abundance, just aren't working right now, you're not going to be where you want to be in 2026. So really using this time of the year to reflect on where you want to go. Maybe running a little bit of an audit over like, what services have I offered this year? Maybe looking at a dashboard, like if you have my KPI tracker, I'm going to be referring to it a few times during this episode. If you don't have it, it is I think, my most valuable totally free resource. It comes with a training. So if you have ever thought, I would like, what do I actually track in my business so that I can keep ahead of things? Like, what numbers should I be paying attention to? How do I know, other than just comparing in my own brain, if I feel I'm better than so-and-so on Instagram? How do I actually know the health of my business? What do I track? How do I track? Then you need my KPI tracker. So it's kirstykianifard.com/KPI. Now, if you have that and you've been using it, or you have a similar system, then I want you to be going over to that and having a little look. What services have been working this year? Where has my energy been best spent? So really starting to feel into, at this time of year, the kind of business you want to be running in 2026. How will you know, if you and I are having this kind of conversation at the end of next year, that it was a good one, that it was a blinder, that you enjoyed it, most importantly, and that it was a success? What would that look like to you? Not having clarity on that will mean that you kind of don't have the coordinates. If you are imagining you're the pilot of your own business, you need the coordinates to know if you're like, what direction to go, right? Where you're heading, what is the vision? Now, this podcast, by the way, is now available on YouTube. I'm not sure if you knew that. I don't think I've announced it, which is an epic fail on my front, other than if you're on my email list. The link to it does go out in there. But the reason I'm telling you that is because I was just going to hold up my massive, big headphones, which happen to be right next to me. So you'll see that if you're watching the podcast. And the reason I tell you this is because I have started for the last 2 months to create a new practice in my life where I go for an hour and a half's walk every day. That's the intention. Okay. I'm not going every day. I would say I'm going like maybe 5 times a week on average. So I'm happy with that. But one of the biggest things that I do on this walk is allow myself to just think about what's going on in my life, and definitely what's going on in my business. Is the best practice for a start of a working day, because I do some practical stuff on that walk. It's so long. So everyone goes, an hour and a half. I'm like, it has to be that long, because if it's shorter, I can kind of get it done without really connecting with myself. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like, I can kind of just go through the motions, probably check a few things on my phone and be home, and not really have kind of got to that place where I've walked long enough that I've waded through kind of the top level stuff. And so this walk is long. I do let myself do some admin, some emails. I write my list for the day, those kind of things. But then I also just like feel into what's feeling heavy at the moment. What am I not enjoying in my business? What's not working in my business? How might I change things? How do I want to go into this next day? So embodying a practice like that now, not in January, not as a New Year's resolution, but starting a practice that's going to set you on a bit of a journey, it doesn't need to come to you instantly, of reflecting and connecting in with your future vision this time of year is such a game changer. Okay, the second thing that I want you to do is to set some timelines. Set some tangible timelines in your business. And for me, this looks like launch planning. So there's a couple of things I'm going to say here. And the first is that starting to think about your sales in the mindset of launches, campaigns, promotions, depending on what kind of a business that you run, will start to give you a huge sense of steadiness and predictability in your business. So many wellness business owners that I work with, and therefore service providers that I work with, create their offers, their promotions, their campaigns from a reactive perspective. So often we've got kind of a baseline of services. They may or may not communicate with each other. More on that in a minute. And we tend to decide kind of which one we're going to talk about or give the most priority based on a kind of surmising of like, I need some more revenue. This one either feels easiest to sell, the least expensive, so maybe the least scary to sell. I feel like maybe I haven't spoken about that one for a while, like seasoning, maybe it makes sense. But anyway, whatever the logic is that's applied to it, it's this real knee-jerk reaction. And so we live month by month in our business. It's like fingers crossed, if that promotion campaign goes well, then phew. And then it's kind of scrambles for what's happening next. If it doesn't, it can feel like a house of cards falling down. And there's this sense, and if you've felt this year, if you've ever felt that you've been in this cycle of just like despair, of like, is this business even working? Can I keep this going? One minute you're high as anything because you made a sale, the next you're like, nothing's happening. Then you need to start to timeline your promotions and your launches. So at this stage, this is genuinely something that most people do in January. And again, like think of the cupboard under the stairs. How is January you supposed to decipher through all of the stuff that it knows you wanted it to do at the back end of December, November? You were saying all these great things and you were telling everyone January was going to be freaking amazing. But yet January you is like still coming out of Christmas coma and opening that door and thinking, shit, there's a lot in here. There's a lot I said I was going to do in January. And quite frankly, I haven't got the capacity. I am exhausted from possibly the busiest time of my year. So what I want you to be doing is not getting your wall planner out in January, not starting to map out the whole year, but to do it now. Now, I am showing you again, you'll be able to see this if you watch the YouTube version of this podcast, but otherwise send me a DM on Instagram if you want the link to it. This is just like a big A4 paper pad. Every page is a calendar and it says this month's plan. It's totally not dated. You fill it all in so you can use this whenever, wherever. And the reason I'm preferring this coming into this new year over a wall planner is because if there's change, if you map out your next 6 months or your year in launches, in promotions, and you map it all out and it doesn't really make sense, or you want to add something or change something, or you've forgotten something, or you add a holiday in, and you need a bit more time off, you can just screw up one page. Get rid of February, redo it, right? And this just feels really practical. It's just an Amazon perch, super simple. So yeah, send me a DM if you want the link to that, because it's been really helpful for me. So you want to be mapping out your launches. Now, I know a question that you're going to ask is like, how long should a launch be? How long should I think about promoting it? When, how would I map all of this out? If there's enough requests for it, let me know. If you want me to do an episode on it, I will. Otherwise, join the Wellness Business Club. If you're inside the Wellness Business Club, you have my 5-step launch plan in there. It walks you through how long every stage should be, exactly what you should be doing in every stage. And that will help you really, really plot this out. But you may already have your flow for launches, but I want you to put pen to paper and really start to map out your whole year again, so that when it comes round, when January 2026 you is just picking this up and just executing. How much more spacious and exciting does that feel for that version of you than having to figure out, what is this year even going to look like? So a really top priority on that one. Now, riding alongside that one, because we want to get some tangibles down, is mapping out the financial goals that go alongside it. So hopefully you've had a look at your KPI tracker by now, you've downloaded it. If not, the link will be in the show notes, but you'll see in that KPI tracker that we've got every month broken down at the bottom. So again, a brilliant time to do your KPI tracker to set all of your last year's numbers, all of your goals in now. And those goals can come off the back of this launch plan. So if you've got a promotion happening in February, you can pop your goals in for what you hope that promotion will bring. You'll be able to map out through your KPIs. There's a full training attached to your KPIs, so don't worry if this all sounds overwhelming. I walk you through step by step for free how to use it. So once you've got that and you've plotted it all out, you'll really start to get, again, this zooming out bird's eye view of your business and where your revenue is going to be coming from every single month. Now, the final thing I'll say on this, and is going to be a big focus for me for 2026, is talking you much more through your business service ecosystem. So my only next request here is that in your launch planning, rather than you just plucking services that sound kind of nice out of thin air, that you start to think strategically about your promotions so that one client can move through multiple services one after the other should they want to. Because it costs you so much less, both in time and money, to serve a client that's already with you than to keep on acquiring new ones. And that again will make you just feel so much more steadiness and predictability in your business. If you know that, for example, once someone has come into your come and have one treatment with you and they've absolutely loved it, and they've got the result, they've got the transformation they were looking for, the next challenge that arises, right, for them, you've also got the answer to that too. So I thought I'd give you a couple of examples of these kind of service ecosystems so that you can think about yours, you can think about how you might plan your launches, and you can also look to patch those leaky buckets. And leaky buckets in my world are where you've got a service that has a leak. So as soon as the client finishes it, there's nowhere else for the client to go and you lose them. And they're not moving through that natural ecosystem. So I'm going to give you an example of online and brick and mortar or an in-person. From back in my spa days, when I had my day spa, this would look like maybe someone coming in for a full body massage, because that would often be the entry point, like the thing that people were seeking, were looking for. We did it, they came. Now we had quite a different edge to the spa. We very much focus on the energetics, kind of spiritual elements of treatments. So often when clients would come and have a full body massage, they would afterwards be like, what was that? There was just something extra about that treatment. It felt really special. It felt really like I just went to another place. It was really magical. It was a brilliant experience. I'd love to find out more. And we then talked to them about energy work, about Reiki. We had a treatment system called Sacrosanct, which was designed on the 7 energy centers that I designed. We had a treatment system that was like a meditation massage. We had so many different offerings. And we would make sure there was always a next step for that client. So whilst they came in through a entry point that you might expect, we were then able to guide them through multiple different services, because there was always more for them to experience. And in our promotions, we would think about it like that. So Sacrosanct was a really good example. It went from the root center to the crown center. And in an ideal world, that treatment was designed that you would move through them. So in January, you might have the root center on offer. And then February, we'd have the sacral center on offer. So it made sense. We were creating the promotions and campaigns based on that natural client journey. Now, for me, in my business, as I'm starting to map out 2026, I have got a brand new offer that will be launching for January 2026. And I only know this because of the work I have done this November on next year. And that is called Your Email Era. So for so long, I have been asked to create a program that just helps you from the basics of email marketing, like setting up your regular email. What do you say? How do you increase your open rates and click-through rates? How do you write good copy? How do you write compelling subject lines? All of that, all the way through to much more sophisticated automations and email sequences. So your sales sequences, your nurture sequences, things that are ultimately happening behind the scenes in your business while you are sleeping, that are going to be making you sales and nurturing clients to become lifelong clients and to enter into this ecosystem. So my year will start off with Your Email Era. It will then move into the next launch will be Facebook and Instagram ads, made simple. And that's because once you've got all your automations running, you've got a stellar email going out each week, you're starting to see the power of email marketing. You're going to say to me, how do I get more people on my list? So go and do IG and Facebook ads. That will get more people on your list. Then, once you've done that, I will be promoting online marketing simplified because we've looked at email marketing. We've now looked at ads, which was started to tap into social media. And then I will say, right, let's look at all of your marketing and get that tip top, build your audience, make sure that you're engaged with your audience, make sure that you're in a good communication with them. Then I'll move on to a promotion of the online course creator, because when you've got a potently and fiercely aligned audience, you can then sell a one-to-many offer to them. So I'll be helping you to create online courses and online programs for your business, and so on. So you can see how it makes sense. Now, of course, people can join at any point within that ecosystem, but building your launches out like that will really help to encourage sales and retention, which is so powerful for your bottom line. So, making sure you've set timelines and tangible goals. Now, the third is to reflect and nurture your audience. Lots of people at this time of year, because they're not quite sure what to do, because they're planning for the Christmas chaos, they're deferring everything to the cupboard under the stairs, also known as January 2026, that this bit of the year becomes a little bit like, oh, I don't really know what's happening. And so they retreat. And so they don't show up as much online. So now remember, in this part of the internet, in my world, we observe the masses and do the opposite. So if everyone's doing that, you better believe you want to lean forward, engage with your people, use this as a kind of reflective time. So like check in if you have communities or groups, find out what it is they want to focus on in 2026. Don't assume. Are they thinking about their goals? What was it that didn't work out this year? Like when they get to the end of this year, how are they going to be feeling? This is a great time to ask those questions. December isn't. December's a terrible time to ask those questions because they're in the Christmas chaos too. But they have some time for you right now. So it's a really good place to kind of crowdsource, get people involved, and nurture those relationships. If you bombard them when they're opening their cupboard under the stairs in 2026, they're going to just be like, I can't hear you. It's all too much. And you'll start hearing them deferring everything to like February, March. I just can't right now. So if they've heard from you now and you're already planting the seeds, you'll start to see a huge difference in next year. Which brings me to my next point, which is to plant seeds. So there's quite a big assumption, particularly in the online space, but I think I see this as well in service-based businesses that are in person, is this like hushing down any potential like future plans. Like, don't tell anyone. Now, I've just told you about the first 6 months of next year in terms of what I'm planning on launching. And if I was to believe that I needed to keep everything stum, I probably wouldn't have done that. But the reason I've done that is I'm planting some seeds. So if you are listening to this and thinking next year is your year to really go all in on your wellness business, that you want to master your email marketing, that you want to master your Facebook and IG ads, that you want to master your overall advertising and marketing, and that, hey, maybe this is the year that you design your first online course or online program, then you might be thinking, I'm going to stick along for the ride with Kirsty because these things sound like they could be right up my street. She specializes in helping wellness business owners, so I'm going to hang around for a little bit. So it's intentional. I'm planting those seeds. Now, if I told you about the things I'm planning the second I was selling them, you may have had no time to warm up to it. And we used to get told that someone needed to see your offer, your service 7 times to buy. I think it's now like 20 to 30 times. And that makes absolute sense because of how noisy the online space is. So I want you to start teasing things now, not in a hard sell kind of way, but in a crowdsourcing kind of way. Maybe start to build some wait lists for things. Start to get your audience involved in the naming of new services or in the kind of things that you might offer within them. You can even start running some founding members offers, like maybe run a 4-week cohort of the program you're set to launch in January, just to get some feelers out, to test it, to get some revenue in, to get a bit playful with your audience. But don't keep everything to yourself. Start to take people on this journey. Remember, the fact that you're in the wellness space means that although you're focusing on your business and how you're going to make the most out of next year in your business, those that you support are thinking about their wellness in the particular niche that you support them with. And maybe they're deferring everything to January. So what is it they need to know now in order to get the most out of their wellness in 2026? So don't keep everything to yourself. Do lots of behind the scenes, do lots of bloopers, do lots of silliness. Have fun with it and invite people on the journey. Now, my fifth and final big tip for November of this year that will massively impact next is to focus on the who and not just the how. So come January, the you that is hitting the ground running will want to action so much of the how. Like, tell me how to do it. I've got this thing I want to launch. How do I do it? Give me the steps. Give me the strategy. Let me fly. That is incredibly important. The only challenge here is there'll be lots of reasons why in this year you haven't been able to roll certain things out. Maybe there's something that was on your January 25 list of things you were going to do this year that you haven't done and that you're moving to January 2026. And I'm going to go out on a whim here and say that that wasn't because you didn't know how. We are in like knowledge saturation era, right? There's probably no piece of information that you can't find out there somewhere. Someone that teaches it, ChatGPT, some AI platform, YouTube, Google, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere, right? So let me ask you this. If it was just that you didn't know how, why is this year, this 2026 year, going to be any different? And the reality is, it's unlikely that while you might not know how, that you couldn't have found out how. And the reason you didn't find out how, or if you did, you didn't implement the how, bear with me, is because of the who. Because we don't give enough time to who do you need to become in order to hold that level of success. So generally, if you have a vision, right, if you want to launch a certain service and you want to hit a certain revenue goal with it, a certain impact goal with it, the reason for that is because you are driven by seeing the transformation, right? By seeing those people's lives change as a result of your work. And you are driven by the numbers, the revenue that gives you. And that all packaged together feels like success, right? That feels like that's what I'm going for. I want that feeling. I want that feeling of being able to sit here and go like, I did it. Their like lives are changed. I feel like I've made my mark and my business is growing in all ways. But there's a version of you that needs to be created that can hold all of that. And that version of you may not exist yet. And that is likely why you didn't do it, as opposed to not knowing how. And so spending the time, getting curious, doing the work, a little bit like I'm doing every morning at the moment, but your practice will look like your practice. And the great thing about it is it's not heavy. There's not stuff. There's no tech gremlins that are going to get in your way. There's no software to learn. There's no systems. There's no like loads of strategy. This is all actually a lot simpler. Not easier, but simpler. It just takes a commitment to some self-reflection, to some self-work, to some curiosity, and to a regular practice. But if you can start to shift some of those unhelpful mindsets, unhelpful narratives, if you can start to change the story, for me, future scripting is and will always be the most powerful tool you have when it comes to creating your reality. And this can start with a really simple journal prompt that asks the question, that when in February 2026, when I open my laptop and see X amount of people that have signed up and enrolled for my program, that are getting results, it's making me feel, and it put it all in the future tense and really flesh it out. I usually find it helpful to put a timer on so that you kind of, again, a bit like my walks, has to be a little bit longer than just top level stuff. And you just simply start writing about the day that you're having when all of this has come into fruition. You talk about the emotions that you're feeling. You're talking about the ease that you're feeling. You can even start to dig into things like when challenges arise, what you've done, how you've coped with them. Maybe you've gone from serving X amount of people in 2025 to Y amount of people in 2026 and how that feels, because right now that might feel really daunting. So what does the version of you that can hold that level of impact and that level of income, what do they look like? How do they move? How do they think? How do they cope with stress? How do they deal with the gremlins that they're not good enough? Script it out, write it out. And if you could do this daily, you'd be setting yourself up for the who. The who do you need to become? Who's going to be walking into 2026 that's going to enable you to create the most iconic year yet? And that won't be created in the post-Christmas chaos hangover whilst you're opening the cupboard of all the things you've deferred to January 2026. You can't remember what day of the week it is. And when you're just taking that massive deep breath that finally some sort of normality has resumed with your routine. So let's recap what I've shared with you today. I want you to connect with your future vision, get really clear on like what you're wanting to take into 2026 and what are you not. Set your timelines, map out your year, get clear on your goals, use the KPI tracker, kirstykianifard.com/KPI. There's a full training there. It's all free. If that's all you did from this podcast episode today was to take that and start using it, it will change the game for 2026. If you want to go that bit further, set yourself a half an hour KPI CEO session every Monday morning from now until forever, so that every Monday morning you're opening that tracker, you're filling it in, you're checking in with where you are going. It will be a game changer. Number 3 is to reflect and crowdsource with your audience. So this is a great time before they all fall off a cliff because they're busy in the Christmas chaos. Ask them about their reflections of the year. Ask them what they're looking for in 2026. Get curious about what you might want to create together. Number 4 is to plant those seeds. Crowdsource, let them help you shape the offer that will come really naturally from that previous step and will help your people get excited about what's coming for next year. It's like, imagine again if you have had a chat with your mate in November and they've said to you, I'm so excited for next year. Like the first few months of the year, I'm doing this. I'm like planting the seeds now. I'm so excited to be able to tell you about them when we meet up in January. When you meet up in January, you're freaking excited to hear about it. You've been thinking about it all over December, wondering, oh, how's that thing going? I can't wait to catch up with them. If they tell you in January, I mean, everyone's doing something new, right? And you'll be excited, yeah, but you'll have missed out on all that anticipation phase. So this is what we want to lean into with your audience. And then finally, ask yourself, work on the who and not just the how. Get curious about what really happened this year. Why didn't you execute on some of those things? What was it? Because it won't be that you didn't know how. It just won't be that you didn't know how. It might be you didn't go that extra step to find out the how, but you could have done. So why? And who is it you need to become to do things differently next year? Now, my lovelies, if you want to come and work on your next 90 days, which will take you up to the end of February, and you want to come alongside me and get me to help you map out these launches, spot your leaky buckets, see the gaps in your client journey, help you to methodically plan out your launches so it's not reactive anymore, it all makes sense. I'll be able to say, do you know what? I think there could be a service here that you don't have that could really help you bridge that gap, keep clients with you longer. And you know what? Sometimes we're just too close to our own businesses to be able to see it ourselves. So if you want to come and do an in-person day with me, where we'll map that out on a wall planner, yes, on a wall planner, that you'll be able to stick up in your office so that January 2026 you is like, yes, I just need to execute on the plan I did with Kirsty. Then come and join me for the Big Picture Day, which is happening in 10 days' time. I'm recording this on the 28th of November. Now, remember, this is a strategy and a shoot day, so you're going to walk away not just with this robust strategy, but you're also going to have some epic, iconic brand shots to take into 2026. I mean, what more says I am here, I'm ready to take this year seriously, than some really exciting new brand shots to release into the world come the new year. So we've still got a few spots left. I was out on my walk this morning on Brighton Beach and it was absolutely glorious. We will be on the beach doorstep. So come and join us. Come over to kirstykianifard.com/big picture to grab your ticket. All right, my lovely. I'd love to hear from you. How are you feeling? Have you been feeling a bit like uncertain about what to do in November? Has this given you some inspiration? Are you going to do some things that future you in January 2026 is going to be like high-fiving you for? Are you going to start filling the understairs cupboard with all the things because you keep saying, oh, do you know what? I'm going to do that next year. I'll start that next year. In January 2026, I am going to do that thing. And just catch yourself when you say that and ask yourself, what could I do now to help that version of me genuinely hit the ground running? All right, my lovelies, as always, it's so good to be here with you, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.